Hi, I'm John Miglosh, and today we're going to revisit big data. I want to especially thank Paul Zikopoulos from IBM, who did a great two-part video on what big data means. And it turns out that what IBM means probably is way different than what I mean. He talks about how when a plane goes coast to coast, each engine can generate a terabyte of data. And it's this velocity of machine-produced data that's raising huge capacity issues, not to mention the analysis issues. Now, clearly you can make money with data if you keep the planes from falling out of the sky. I just wonder if when the idiot light goes on in my car, it's usually the sensor, not the engine. But let's leave that to them. What we're talking about is more in the area of, in the last 2 years or so, Google and Yahoo and Facebook have opened the treasure chest of their technology and shared it with the world on what they have, first of all, and what sense they can make out of it with their different analytical techniques. But if you remember from last week, I called a lot of that data soft data. If you remember, I said, knowing all I know about me, I can't predict 5 minutes ahead what I'm going to actually buy at Walmart. And if I can't predict me, knowing all I know about me, how am I going to predict you, knowing only what I know from your Facebook clicks? In fact, so much of that data is a little bit like overhearing a conversation where my wife is talking with a friend and it's clear that someone died, and I'm starting to feel very emotional about it, and it turns out when she hangs up the phone, it's someone different than I thought, and it was their parakeet. Not that I'm against parakeets. I've had many parakeets. I love parakeets. But the point is that we make decisions about data based on the context. And I read an article about how we're capturing almost everything we can capture, someone said. And I wrote him back and I said, no, actually, there's an infinite number of variables about any event or object. And we're never going to collect the infinity. A great article this week I read just about the difference between a wink as a twitch or a wink as a wink. Think about that. So, we're not just talking about big data, and maybe we won't even use that term anymore. We're really talking about making money. And this series is about how do we make money with data? And that's the real question. And so I'm going to visit the historical, where I started with a TRS-80 that didn't even have a hard drive. Okay, and we started doing graphs and charts on it. I remember going to Gurney Seed and Nursery or Koss headphones and saying, there's boxes, you should key that item history in. And the fact is that Koss gave me the boxes to get it keyed in. So Gurney said, well, when a person orders once, we increment it, 1, 2, 3, 4, so we do know how many times they bought. But that can cause issues in itself. Hudson Bay called us after we built their database and they said it's obviously not correct. One customer here has $100,000 of purchases. Well, I said, let's look it up. We had the 250,000 transactions. They didn't. It turned out the customer bought a $92,000 pair of Levi jeans. Turned out it was in the data. Of course, Ernie Shell said, I would have returned those jeans. Anyway, the point is that somewhere between Alberta and Toronto, a bolt of lightning added a few zeros to that transaction. We could find it, they couldn't find it. So now we're adding more and more categories of data to the accumulator data, the 1, 2, 3 times have ordered, when was the last time they ordered, the sort of basic RFM. We're now adding different item data. Now that has to be categorized. And so Thompson Cigar, who's been a client, could categorize a cigar as a Maduro, Dominican, 7-inch, whatever, 42 ring. That same identical cigar in Johnson Murphy Shoes, who did sell cigars for a while, that same identical cigar could be categorized as an accessory item. And so just knowing the item number doesn't tell us, it seems like it tells us everything, but It's how we look at it. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the nuances of categorizing item data. Now, there's also other kinds of data. There's contact data. Some companies pile up millions and millions and millions of records about how many times they've mailed each person. We add geodemographic data. We even add it for business-to-business clients. And feel free to call me or write to me if you would like me to explore any of these particular items. For years, I spoke out and said, business-to-business will never be able to use geodemographic data. That is completely wrong. The data has defeated me and convinced me. So, if we think about making money with data, what are the fundamentals? How do we move from that accumulator data to making more money? How did each step come into play? Well, basic direct mail 101, I said that right, direct mail 101 says there's two ways to make money. One is to refine your list, either eliminate people that are not going to be interested, or find people that look bad and bring them in because of something else you know. And that's really the heart of where additional data is going to help us. I read 3 articles this week on how maybe small data is better. Of course, last week I talked about hard data, soft data in the big data. But one analyst said very poignantly that the advantage of big data is we might find little pockets of good data. And that's an important element in refining your list. Now also there's refining the offer. And sometimes, because we know something about people, because of what's hidden in the data, we can tell a better story. And I tried to tell all these stories. I had a 20-minute video for you, and everybody said that's just too long. So we're gonna defer that. We're gonna talk about how each step along the way fits into refining the list or refining the offer. Have fun with your data. Make money with your data. I'm John Miglash.